Ben Meyer in Wichita, Kansas, and Team Home Hero. What's that all about? Watch this video to get to know that story and just a little bit more about myself and the team and how it came about and where we're going. So before I get into all that, got to do my usual due diligence. Like, comment, subscribe, share, depending on the platform and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully you guys will be entertained, inspired, and enjoy this, I guess, a little rendition of where I come from, what my story's been so far, and the story we're continuing to write that all of you are helping us to write and be a part of. So with all that, I'll go ahead and get into it. So I'm from Wichita originally. I'm from the west side. Although I live downtown now and was selling houses and just getting involved in the community, I get all over the place now. Becoming a little bit more of an east sider more and more, but don't tell my west side family that. They'll disown me. More than anything, though, I just consider myself a Wichitan, and I really do get all over the place, especially since I play a lot of pickleball. It's one of my favorite things to do, and there's a lot of good courts around here, Edgemar Park and Chicken and Pickle out east. There's Seneca Park in kind of the middle of the town, but then there's also Rolling Hills I go play out on the west side, but then there's also Riverside, which is middle of town too. Honestly, just wherever good pickleball is at. And Nahala is out west too, where some of the nation's best pickleball players play and come from. So that's something I'm definitely very passionate about, is pickleball and the sport of pickleball. And there's actually really a lot of good people from Wichita that play. I come from a pretty small town, Catholic family. My mom was a silent shop with State Bank at College and now Legacy Bank and a bunch of other things that you may know from the silent shops, like Gambino's or Amden Place Apartments. Come from a pretty successful line of aunt and uncles on that side. My dad was a Meyer from the Garden Plain area, and he was into the salvage yard business, which he ran for 25 years. And so that's kind of where I got the entrepreneurial bug from, was from him and some of my uncles that I saw that were pretty successful business. Kind of saw the writing on the wall that I always knew I wanted to own a business of some sort. I just didn't entirely know what business that would be. And although I liked working with my hands and creating things and doing things, the salvage yard, salvage business, car business wasn't quite, my thing. And so throughout high school, I was real involved in wrestling, football, and track. We won state twice in wrestling. I was a captain on the wrestling team and on the football team. Mainly did track just to stay in shape, but I was definitely the busybody kid that was always doing something, whether that was good or bad, because if I was playing sports, it was productive. If not, I was kind of being ornery, partying and raising hell and seeing what kind of trouble I could get myself into. But now I've kind of just applied that more in an entrepreneurial fashion, that entrepreneurial, ornery, innovative attitude. Kind of took that into college, where I went to K-State and got my piece of paper, as I like to call it, just because I knew I needed to get a college degree, but I always knew I was going to be an entrepreneur at some point. I just kind of had the bug, but I still had to develop and learn a lot of stuff. Also, at the time, I was thinking I was wanting to be a firefighter, and I got my EMT certification while I was up at K-State. I actually got it from Cloud Community College, so I went to school full-time and also got my EMT certification while I was up there. I got some other specialized training for firefighting, like my Fire 1 and 2 from Hutch Community College, my hazmat certification, and a few other technical rescue things. Really enjoyed that, really was fascinated by that industry, but come to find out that all the different fire departments I interviewed with didn't necessarily like my innovative attitude and weren't quite ready for leadership qualities that I had. And so maybe I looked at that in a little bit different way, that that's what I had planned for my life, but maybe God had a different plan for me, and I need to start listening to what was working, which was taking off for, construction. Because I worked for my dad for a little bit in the middle of high school. I worked at Star Lumber for a little bit, driving a forklift, being around construction materials, getting to know some of that stuff when I was younger. Worked for some apartments while I was up in college, kind of some jobs here and there, worked some summers, kind of worked off and on while I went to school on everything. But then I came back from K-State, I graduated, worked in my dad's business a little bit before I ended up going and working in construction for a trim carpenter, and learned a lot from him as far as just all around construction and trim carpentry, some of the higher end trades to the lower end trades, and just a lot of things in between. Really just dug into that industry to learn about it all. But then he got slow. And so I started to go look for some work, for some side jobs to get going. And Craigslist is actually where I first got my marketing start to write ads and, drum up business essentially. And my whole value proposition was, I'm the guy that the general contractors hire. I'm college educated. I'm pretty clean cut. I'm reliable. I communicate. I'm responsible. And the price that I'm going to charge you is way less than what the big general contractors were. And at the time, I didn't know what I was doing. Like, I was just happy to be generating money on my own. I didn't really know anything about running a business. I was out there with a get it done, can do attitude. And I was writing ads and I was reliable. And, let's see, when was this? That was back in like 2012. So that was like 9 years ago. And you can think 9 years ago, our internet, the world was a whole lot different than it is now. Like, the internet was still just kind of coming about, not anywhere near the monster it is now. But that's kind of where I got my start in figuring out how to market and write ads and, generate business for anything. And so I got a good amount of handyman business going on. I was charging like $15 an hour just to do random tasks or different projects. I'd come quote them out, get free estimates. Thought it was the coolest thing in the world because I had tools and I had a truck with the truck box, and I was out there, building my business. I was a business owner at that point. Did a lot of handyman jobs. Ended up getting into enough business going that I told my boss that I was just going to go start my own thing and figure it out like as I go, buy tools as I go, figure it out as I go. Just had a lot of confidence in myself, maybe a little arrogance and ego to get me going that I learned later to correct. And I'm still probably working on that. But I learned to continue to write ads, continue to learn about the industry. And I got into insurance work. There's a big hailstorm in Bel Air where a lot of the roofs were getting done, but nobody would do the siding and windows. And I would be willing to do that. And I just would literally go like house to house and be like, anybody doing your siding and windows, I'll do that. Hey, you already got this general contractor. I'll work with them to do the siding and windows. Or I had a general contractor that I got hooked up with eventually. It was like, hey, I got like 4 or 5 of these. You want to do all these? And I'd be like, yeah, sure. And so I just how old was I then? 24 years old, going from like house to house, just making $6,000 to $12,000 a house, just loving it, living it. Like, just, I could work 12 hours days. They didn't care. Like, and I had the energy to do it at that point. And I just was going from house to house, being an entrepreneur, providing solutions to people with problems and doing work that no one else wanted to do. I eventually got a couple trailers and just kept building my business from the proceeds of what I was making on everything. And, it was just me, and I'd get a couple cousins or some friends to come help out, pay them cash. And I ran the business out of the garage of the house that my dad bought the house with he and I together. And then I rented it out to a few of my friends. So I either broke even or made a little bit of money from the house. I had all the construction stuff in the garage, had the 2 trailers in the front yard or in the driveway. And it's just me and, my bros that were just hanging out, living at this house. And I was running my business, had just a little laptop and a desk in my office or in my bedroom. And like, that was the extent of my entrepreneurial startup. Starting a garage like most entrepreneurs do, and did construction, and honestly just did whatever it takes to make ends meet on everything. So I started off doing the insurance work, got into doing some remodeling work for some different people. And that's where I came into contact with some guys that do flip houses, and they'd give me the whole job. They'd be like, hey, here's the project, here's 20 grand, go knock it out. Here's everything I want done. And, I'd get it done in 2 weeks, where it'd be taking like a month or 2 months for some of these other guys. And they were happier than hell because they could turn around their properties on that. And I was like, this is awesome. I'm going to make 20 grand in 2 weeks. I'm a 24, 25-year-old, kid at that point, just figuring this stuff out. And so it's like, it was kind of eye-opening, like how much there opportunity there was out there that I was thinking so naively and small, just from being able to write marketing, write ads, get reliable service, good quality, focus, being just all out, dedicated, committed to it. Tried to date some girls at the time in the middle of that. And I'm just such a driven like person that I'm like, I'm working. Can't pull me away from that, which is probably why I'm still single. And so I got into flip houses for some guys. And then I started to learn, maybe how to do this myself, how to buy some houses myself. My dad partnered on one with me that I got a co-signer at the bank on the very first one to get going. Then I worked through some different private lending relationships with some people that continue to do some of these. I also learned how to wholesale at the time, which is kind of a gray area thing, to where I could find properties, but I couldn't necessarily flip them all or do all the work on them because I was still doing the work myself on these things. And that, looking back now, is a pretty big risk, but it got me to where I'm at now to learn what I know now. And so I got into flipping houses, and then I would kick them over to a realtor eventually to sell the house for me. But then obviously I went and got my license, but I kind of had the stigma of like, I don't want to be a realtor. I don't want to be one of those ding dong, no nothings that charge too much, that don't do anything for their commission. So I had the attitude like, well, I'll get my license because realtors don't do that much. And I got my license, and I came to find out that, one, that was still kind of true. There's a lot of lazy, greedy, shady realtors that are out there. So I will not deny that fact whatsoever. But I also saw a lot of opportunity. That was like, there is so much more that can be done here. There's a giant opportunity here to service people in the way that they want to be serviced. That Zillow is an evidence of that. And all these different alternative service models that exist now today are out there, that we as realtors, as an industry, really need to step up our game to provide a better level of service. And so for my first year, I was just kind of selling my flips. I did a few SOI deals with some people, but I remember a light bulb went off when I did one deal. I think I had like 6 or 7 hours into it. I did a good job. We looked at 3 or 4 houses. They got the house. They were really happy with it. Everything went really well. And I was like, wow, like that's what it's really like. I was like, if I really take this seriously, like there's a legit profession and career here. Obviously it's going to take time to build, and money and risk and effort, dedication, but there's a real legitimate, career that I can really step into here. So I really started to sit down and look at how could I build this and how could I do this. And I started to research all the things that go into it, realize there's a lot more that goes into this industry when you really want to succeed at a high level. And so I started looking at all the different marketing systems, all the money, all the CRMs, all the different things. And it kind of led me to joining a real estate team here in Wichita. And when I went and joined that real estate team and really took realtoring seriously, I took off. I and my former partner were 2 of the top producers at that team, really learned how to succeed within a team environment like that, working with online leads, marketing on Facebook, before they started changing a bunch of things, which they're always going to be changing things. I really got to know how to really market well. So I started with Craigslist, and then I moved on to Google and Facebook, and started to really dig in through trial and error and through classes and learning. I wasn't afraid to spend money on myself to learn more. I kind of look at it as just the same way I had to spend money on equipment for my construction business. I have to spend money on my knowledge of how to market and sell in today's current economy. And I think to date, I've spent about 58 grand total on my post-college education on advanced sales and marketing things. So whether that be digital marketing, current sales methods that work, life coaching was a big one that really helped me personally, but also it helped me to help other people through a big change in their life. Because at the end of the day, realtoring is more about psychological human connection and helping them through a big life transition and change in their life. And also the technical side of real estate marketing, all that stuff. At the end of the day, people are at the core of this thing. And so that was kind of how I got into with that team, and I really got going, and I started building some marketing things that were above and beyond what they're currently doing. And the current team structure and team lead didn't necessarily, align with what I was bringing to the table and what they're wanting to do. So I ended up having to go my separate ways, start my own team. And I realized how much harder it is to be a team leader than it is just to be a good agent. It's already hard enough to be a good agent. 87% of agents quit the business within 2 years. So that means there's an 87% failure rate. So only 13% actually make it as a realtor. But yet everybody thinks it's so easy to be a realtor and we make all this easy money, but it's the exact opposite of that. And then put on top of that being a team lead, so of the 13% that make it, you got to work with them to develop a team around that. So that's a big thing we're working to correct here. And I've been running a team now for 3 years, and I've had my license for 6 years coming up in September. Been an entrepreneur for 9 total. Been in construction for 11 for everything. And I graduated from K-State, in 2010. And basically right after I graduated in 2010, I worked for my dad's company a little bit and then went right into construction. So 11 years, that all lines up. So that's kind of been my story so far. And right now we have 4 agents, 3 support staff. one ISA, one transaction coordinator, one admin, and I did 63 units last year, and right now I think we're at 50. It's about July of 2021. The goal is to get to 75 to 100 by the end of the year, somewhere in between there. And then for next year, we're looking at about 200 units is what we should be looking at there, which would equate to about 20 million volume at our average price point of 212,000. The eventual goal is 500 units by 2023 or sooner, with 10 agents, 3 to 4 ISAs, 3 support staff, 100 million volume. And then I'm also looking at building a global EXP team of 500 plus agents where we coach around the nation on everything. And all that sounds really cool and fun, but at the end of the day, what it's really about, the core of it all, is the big opportunity I saw when I very first started in this industry was the ability to provide a better service to people at the end of the day. And where could I really make an impact on their lives that's meaningful and purposeful? Because when I was going into firefighting, it was never about the money. It was about the impact that I could have and the quality of people's lives that I could improve and save. And that's why I kind of named it Team Home Hero, is because that's not just some gimmicky, hokey thing that it's like, oh, that's cool, like you're gonna wear a cape. It's like, no, like our job really is to protect you and to avoid the nightmare and hire the good guys that really know what they're doing, that's going to take on your life's biggest transition, one of your biggest transitions, one of the biggest transactions that you ever do. And I'm willing to spend the money and get the staff in place so that you have a way better experience with this than the horror stories we've all heard that have gone on. And to the point where I'm building a team to better service you. So from the ISA, who gives you a better online search experience, care, attention, concern, that humanizes that connection, humanizes this technology, isn't just this crazy, sleazy salesperson. It's a service standpoint right from the start. And then we're not overly bothering you, but we're using technology to better service you, from instant property alerts to doing messaging, videos like this, to really show you, like, at the core of this, our hearts are in the service of people. And that's really what I see is the core of this. But then also a piece of that is dumping that back into Wichita, the community we live in. You see a lot of these bigger places like Zillow and Realtor becoming big major forces to deal with. But what you may not realize is that the more you use those platforms and go on there, and the more that we as agents have to pay to use those services, our local dollars are going out the door to some big giant corporation that doesn't care about you. I do care about you. I'm local. I'm here in Wichita. I spend a lot of my money in Wichita. I stay in Wichita, and I have plans to invest even further in Wichita so that all of it stays at the core here, which Wichita is really good about supporting local and supporting local entrepreneurs. And I love supporting our local entrepreneurs through our Wichita Food and Booze group for small restaurants, networking with entrepreneurs, passing referrals every chance I can get. I'm really about that small business, self-employed side, because I've been there. I am one. And what goes around comes around. And so the more you support Team Home Hero, the more all that circles right back around into Wichita and makes our community even better. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're really about, is improving the quality of life for Wichitans everywhere. And we just happen to be doing it through the technology side of things within Wichita. We're going through a technological revolution where, like, our parents went through an industrial revolution, their parents went through an agricultural revolution. We're going through a technology revolution. And, it's really just important to support your small business owners that are ushering in that change and not doing it from a national perspective to the big boys like Zillow and Realtor. Do it with your local guys here in Wichita, so that we can keep it all local and close and within each other's realm of everything. And if you really want to sum it up, like why Team Home Hero is doing well, I'd say it's because of our advanced marketing and our life coaching. So that's kind of our spiel a little bit. That's my story, Team Home Hero's story, where we're going, what we're doing. We really appreciate your support and everything you're doing for us. If this is something that you want to be a part of, whether you're an agent or looking for, a career and a profession that you can really care about that makes a difference in people's lives, I'd be willing to talk to you. Just go ahead and message me, sign up on my website, and you can text or email from there, or just I'm very accessible. Whichever way you want to get a hold of me, I'm very accessible on Facebook, on my little personal cell phones on my Facebook profile. So if there's something you want to be a part of in any way, shape, or form, whether that's being an agent, being a staff member, being a client, we really appreciate and take to heart you guys supporting us, and always appreciate you watching. And sharing this content. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and really think about who you can share this with. Hopefully this helps you get to know us a little bit more and how we're doing real estate. And we'll talk to you guys later. See ya.